great show planned. Sound like Donald Trump when I just start with statements like that. But good show planned. But importantly, possibly more important than the show, depending on your slant. If you watch the show, we have a giveaway, but not just any giveaway. I think an exceptional giveaway, and we will give you details on how you can win it as soon as we get back from this very small intro.
Mini Matters, a miniature and painting podcast.
So, guys, for the observant ones, you will notice three. Oh, I need to mirror my image because I always do that. 3 logos, and for the extremely observant, you would have noticed that this logo was here before. And this is our new, now I know, sponsor that we have. So we're extremely happy to have Brokentoad on board with us. And I say on board with us, backing's not the right word, but their faith in us, Lionel, that they trust us enough to promote their products in a sincere and heartfelt way. And the prize, Lionel? For the competition that we're doing for this.
Yeah, so they, in order to celebrate our union, they've been kind enough to donate some brush sets to us off their Kolinsky Sable brushes. They've given us 2 sets. We're going to be giving away 1 set in this episode, and we'll be giving away another set in a future episode. So stay tuned for that. I believe we've got a brief advert, haven't we, Jamie, that we're going to run about the brushes, and then we can give the details on the other side about how to be in with a chance of winning, and then probably give our views on the brushes as well.
Certainly.
Brokentoad have been producing their Mark III brushes since 2019. Handmade with Siberian Kolinsky Sable, these brushes come in 3 varieties. The miniature series, the flathead, and the spearhead allow the painter versatility when selecting the right tool for the job. Having used the brushes myself, I found that the Sable allows for a degree of feedback and therefore allows the painter to respond and adjust the pressure, unlike stiffer, bristled alternatives. If you select Brokentoad as your brush of choice, then you will be in good company, with some of the world's best painters favouring them. If you're interested in giving these brushes a go, head over to Brokentoad's website now, or use the link in the description below. With the quality and consistency Brokentoad deliver, you won't go far wrong if you give these brushes a try.
I have to say, Lionel, obviously, brushes excluded. It's a very good video. Did you film these brushes yourself?
I did, Jamie. I did.
These are the actual brushes people are getting in that video?
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, so that's one of the sets. So, yeah, it's not just one brush. They've been generous. Brokentoad have been generous enough to give us 2 of these sets. Like I said, we're giving one of those sets away. There are 4 brushes, I believe, in that set, all made of Kolinsky Sable, as I said. They're really great. They're really great brushes, and the set retails, I believe, just below £50. So it's not a paltry price in that sense, and it's a quality product. So before we start talking about the brushes, let's just put them out of their misery. So in order to be in with a chance to win these, you need to obviously like the video, but we want you to comment below, but not a random comment. We want to know what you would paint first if you were to win these brushes. So what was the first project or the first miniature that you're going to paint with these brushes if you're fortunate enough to win them? Put that in the comments below, and then obviously we'll randomly select somebody in a future show, possibly next week, to see who's won.
Do we have a cut-off? If we say we'll do it Friday when we record, so it will literally be like 7 hours, 10 p.m. Friday, probably is roughly the cut-off, isn't it?
Yeah, because we're not going to get together to try and find a random winner before then. We'll do it just before we record next week's show. So yeah, and that seems sensible. 7 o'clock next Friday will be the cutoff for it. Okay. So we've both used these brushes, haven't we, Jamie? We bought them before we were sponsored.
Before we even knew Mr. Chris.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
To be honest.
So, like I said, we're not in the game of just accepting sponsors if we don't believe in the product.
Willy-nilly. No, absolutely not. We're too highbrow.
So, in terms of your experience with the brushes, did you enjoy them?
Well, our illustrious partner Peter was the one who waxed lyrical hardcore about them, didn't he?
Yeah.
Peter is certainly an established painter, especially back then. What, a year and a half ago, maybe. So yeah, I'm looking around just to check. I don't know. I've probably got like 5 of them. I think I bought more than one because of their sometimes they're quite hard to get hold of sometimes when whatever they're called, the animals that make them go missing. Yes, but it is pretty much. I think it's a number 2 is my brush of choice. I think they're slightly softer than other brushes. Like they're not super soft. Like they're still, you can paint with them. But they're fuck me, they're good brushes. Like that, basically that and Windsor 7 are the 2 that I use basically for pretty much everything.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. So obviously I started off with Windsor Newtons, and I enjoyed them a lot. But I found as they were getting more popular, I was getting supply issues in terms of I wasn't getting good quality brushes all the time consistently, which is when Pete mentioned Brokentoad. And I'll be honest, I went in quite skeptical because there were a lot of brushes on the market at that time. I'm not going to go into the details. And I tried most of them and they weren't coming up to the standard of the Windsor Newtons. So when Pete suggested Brokentoad, I kind of ordered one and didn't think much of it. And I put it through its paces. And to be fair to Brokentoad, they tell you how to look after your brushes, how you should be using them, how you should be cleaning. But obviously, being taught by Alfonso, his view is no, you completely abuse a brush, and
bully it
and punish it as much as you can. And by the end of it, by the end of the project, you throw it away and you get a new one. So
what is his quote? I think his quote is literally, "No, it's a tool. You use the tool."
Yeah, it's a tool. Use it. Don't reverend and whatnot. So obviously, when I got my Brokentoad, my number 1, I used it and I really put it through its paces and abused it. And no matter how much punishment I gave it, it kept going. So it lasted over and over a project to the point actually where it's like a horror villain, where it's like, why won't you just die? No matter what I did to it, it didn't seem to die on me. I mean, obviously, eventually it did give up the ghost because it had too much punishment. But the point is, a brush that deals with that much punishment during the painting process. And obviously, I was painting with it properly in that sense. I wasn't deliberately trying to mash a bristle, but I was working the brushes as hard as I could. And a brush that stands up to that and holds is something that got my respect. And then since then, like you, it's a regular player on my desk. So I go between that and a Winsor Newton. What I like about Brokentoad is, like I said in the advert, they actually have a softer sable. So as a result, you get a bit of feedback on them while you're using them. So I find them really good for glazes, wet blending, a real workhorse brush really. And I tend to revert then to the Winsor and Newton when I want a stiffer bristle for doing things like eyes or details like pupils or whatnot. So I switch between the 2 of them, but yeah, I do recommend Winsor Newton. Not Winsor Newton and Brokentoad, but I do recommend Brokentoad, and I do generally use them. They're here. I do recommend them. They are a good brush. They are a good brush.
But just also as a caveat, obviously we've just waxed lyrical about Brokentoad now for, I don't know, 5 minutes. We have spoken positively about them in the past. So it's not just that now, Chris is a bloke, he's got great brushes. No, it's more of a case of we're on the subject, so now we've spoken about it naturally, in my opinion. Basically, that's not scripted, what Lionel just said.
Yeah, and like I said, if we didn't believe in the product, we probably wouldn't have accepted the sponsor because, like you said, this is something we do as a hobby. We don't get any income from this. We don't get any revenue. We've got normal day jobs. We've got normal other forms of revenue and support that we don't need to do it. So we don't need to start talking up companies or things that we don't believe in. So it was just a happy coincidence that Chris offered, absolutely. And we went, well, actually, we do buy your brand anyway. So we're more than happy to accept the sponsor and then obviously be able to give something back to our viewers if they're lucky enough to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good to have them on board. I'm grateful that we've got a new logo in the mixer. and I'm looking forward to doing some unboxings for them, which will be enjoyable. What did I do? I wrote on. He commented on the unboxing.
Yeah.
And I said,
If you're wondering why there's a slider in, Jamie's done an unboxing of Journeyman's Minotaur earlier this week, and you haven't watched it, go and watch it. It's an experience.
I think this is personally how all unboxings should be. Just talk about your feelings when you unbox something.
I think that unboxing is proof in the pudding that we're not scripted and we're not being paid to say anything. What we say is literally what pops off the top of our head, and I think that unboxing is proof of it.
Genuinely, right? It's one of the few videos I had to watch back because I had to edit it, and I did think, oh, I've gone quite hard here on the open door thing. Like, if the Minotaur can fit through the door, I was like, while I was obviously recording it, it was like, that's exactly what I was thinking about. But after, I was like, oh, should I? I was like, no, you can't cut things out. Otherwise, it's not a true unboxing, is it? It's like a edited. I don't know. Anyway, that's great. Thanks. Thank you.
Once again, like I said, just to reiterate the point, like the video, comment down below, what project would you paint first if you were to win these brushes?
And if it's a dragon head model, that's great. If not, I don't really personally mind. Also, we're not saying that you have to hit the subscribe button. No, not at all. But if you do, who knows how that might affect the chances of winning. Now, of course, Lionel, I'm not saying it will not affect your chance of winning at all.
It won't.
No, of course it won't. It won't. Absolutely it won't. But, just saying. Right. To be fair, we're going to have the whole list there.
I say it's the way you deliver it. It makes it sound like it will. It won't. In order to enter the draw, you need to like the video and comment below about what you would paint first if you were to win these brushes, and that's where the selection will randomly come from.
Yeah, and if you hit subscribe as well,
you have my guarantee that I'll keep Jamie in line on that point. There won't be any shenanigans from Jamie.
Absolutely not. I'm just saying, if you did subscribe, it wouldn't hurt your chance of winning. But also, with full transparency, we'll put the full list there. You'll see when we run the thing. But it never hurts chances if you subscribe as well.
Okay. So we're into the news, the traditional news now. So the first release here is from Mini Monster Mayhem. Now, we had a little discussion off air just before we started, as we always do, about horror films and 80s horror and whatnot. And that's why this particular release caught my eye. So what Mini Monster Mayhem do is he is a 3D sculptor, and he has a Patreon whereby he releases a set of models every month for his patrons, and then his patrons can then download the STL file and print those models off. And he does a lot of horror-based, monster-based, as the name would suggest, 3D renders. This one, however, really caught my eye because I thought it was beautifully dark. So it's called it's the Celestial, the Afflicted Celestial. So obviously a fallen angel. And what I loved about it is the morbidity of the whole piece. So the severed arms, which make the wings, the kind of horns that aren't really attached to his body but come out of his back, and the powerful stance of the individual. But it felt like something for me from Hellraiser or one of those kind of 80s horror films where there was a real darkness, a Clive Barker darkness to it. And I really liked it. Obviously, if you don't have a 3D printer, then you're going to have to get somebody to print it for you. Or I believe companies are now offering the service. I believe Mr. Lee's Minis is now offering a 3D printing service. So if you don't have a 3D printer, if you don't have a 3D printer, then there are still companies you can approach to get this. But I don't know what your view of it is, Jamie, but I really like it. Now I know you love an evil sculpt, don't you?
Well, interestingly, this to me isn't evil. So I think think my problem with evil sculpts are evil for the sake of evil. I find it relatively like, yeah, I hate chaos, and I hate, but I like darkness, and for me they're slightly different concepts. This to me seems like someone who's, see, I want to use evil, but he's sort of transcended evil, where he is the epitome of it, but not in a overarching obvious way. So like chaos, or like, it's a hard one to articulate. Basically, I like this model a lot, like a really lot. And I think it's because it's something that I've never seen or even conceptually ever even thought about. But what I also find interesting is he has control over the hands. Which is, and it's got, there's been a concept in my head that I've always wanted to do, and that is, you know, when someone moves so fast you can't see them, but then like whenever you see in films or something, they move like, but they're moving really quickly. So they like, anime does it a lot, where they slow motion something down and you just see douche, 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 douche. And I've always wanted to do a model with somebody moving at like the speed of sound or something, and you see their afterburner, the after image.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what the feeling I get with the left hand. And yeah, I do really like it. Yeah, I didn't.
It's one of those things where I've said to you, obviously off air, I really wish I had a 3D printer for the odd piece. Never more have I wanted one after seeing this piece, because it's one of those pieces I looked at and I thought, oh, I really wish they offered a traditional resin sculpt for people who wanted to buy the resin piece, because I would have bought this. And I'm still, like I said, I'm as you know, I'm really bad with technology, so it's not a case of just buy one and print it off, because there'll be tears and gnashing of teeth. but also I wonder, how well that 3D render would actually translate to a physical sculpt, because I still find it hard to believe that the copy would be as perfect as that. And I think obviously it depends on your skill with the 3D printer and in what one type of one you're running. And I just don't know enough to have a go. I suppose I should approach Mr. Lee's Minis actually.
Yeah, I think if they're selling them, then actually it makes sense. To go for it.
I presume you buy the STL file, send it over
and
to
send
Mr.
it to
Lee.
him.
But
if he's got more, hold on. If he's got other people buying it, he'll make one version surely. Like if anybody else has sent it in to him already, then you could just buy that one that he's already prepared. Because you do need to build the supports and actually make it work, basically. It's a little bit frustrating, in my opinion. But yeah, I really, really do like it. I thought actually that they were his hands, not severed hands, which is interesting.
Well, like I said, I don't recall there being much of a, other than the name, I don't recall there being much of a write up. I just assumed they were hands of fallen souls or souls he had absorbed. I don't know. But I suppose that's the thing about a sculpt like that, Jamie. You can make it your own. You can make the narrative your own and paint it as such, couldn't you?
In a way, I'd like to change all the hands to be like praying and give him a halo. I'm never going to do it.
Make it good.
Yeah. But I don't really like angels as a concept either. I find them sort of like a hypocrisy of the whole situation. So, you know, who is evil? Well, it's just the fact that they exist in a world where they exist is just a complete, well, it's bullshit, because they exist and they have this perfect thing, right? But then all the people that they're meant to be protecting and enjoying are on Earth, or the equivalent of their Earth, and suffering and dying, and then you say, okay, the angels aren't allowed to get involved, but then why would the creator allow evil people to get involved, but the good people aren't allowed to get involved? It's all very there's a lot of stories around that subject.
Well, the idea is fallen angels are no longer underneath the creators control, are they? And they don't observe the rules of the game, so to speak.
Yeah, but the creator created that rule. That's where the hypocrisy kind of comes in, because he invents the universe, so he can dictate who these rules are.
Yeah, but then once they fall, they're not going to obey the rules, are they?
Well, he is the Almighty. He could just say, "Well, actually, I think that's a bad idea. Let's change it." So that's why I actually think, in a way, people like this who are evil are actually the goodies. You know, because they're being allowed to do that. So
it's free will, isn't it? They're exercising free will.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's a theological discussion, isn't it? For
well,
a
I think
episode in itself.
Yeah, literally could. Right, I enjoy those subjects, but let's move it along for the sake of the competition.
Okay, so the next release is from Bold Miniatures. So Bold Miniatures are bringing a Kickstarter. I've got the date here. Give me 1 second. On the 19th, yeah, on the 19th of April, and they've got a collection of models coming. And what they've done is they're showing sneak peeks of those models. So what they released, or they gave a peek of this week, was this release, which is called Visa and Tori. Now, don't ask me which one's which, but obviously what you've got here is in all intents and terms, a dino rider. So you've got a pterodactyl there, and then you've got an anime styled rider there. And this is one of the releases that's coming out. I don't know how many are coming out. I've seen a tease of a second one just before recording, but I don't know how many models are coming out. But all these are going to be available via Kickstarter. I believe they've kickstarted in the past, but they only kickstarted one model at a time, or maybe one or two models. So their initial range, I did like their initial range, whereby they kind of had characters which were like mixed with animals. So you had like a squirrel girl and whatnot. But this looks like a completely different range and a different style. One, it piqued my interest because one, I think it's original. I haven't seen anything like this in this style. But two, I included it because I always try to think of you, Jamie, when I put together the news articles. And with your love of Eldar riding dinosaurs and dragons and elves hugging dragons, I just thought this had a kind of essence there that you might appreciate. Am I right or am I wrong?
You know me well. I think I have to say I'm a little bit. I think bittersweet's probably the right word, because like literally what they've done, and this is including the other models, are exactly, and I'm not like almost exactly the models that I started working on about a year ago. In fact, longer now, like 15 months ago. And I can't. I like. They're perfect for everything that I envisioned. Like they've basically taken, without ever talking to me or seeing anything that I've ever done, taken my exact sort of concepts and brought them to reality. So I have to say I probably will be backing these projects because I like them so much. Like honestly, like the art direction, the sculpting, everything is. It's so fucking hard to get a sculptor to do something that good, like or in a style that you want when you don't have like the concept art isn't exactly how you imagine, if that makes sense. So anyway, I like it a lot, and I have a concept that was finished like 15 months ago that is very similar to this. Right. Still very different style, like. But the concept is very similar, which is interesting. It's just been with the sculptor now for over a year. So we could have been looking at something that could have inspired this, but we're definitely not. And yeah, I genuinely hope it does really well. Yeah.
Well, that's quite an endorsement then, because I find it very difficult for you to get excited about anything. And I always put things and go, Jamie, this might interest you, and you very diplomatically go, yes, it's nice, Lionel, but I've never seen you so animated or excited, even so far as to say that you're actually going to back something. Because I don't think you back stuff that regularly, do you? Not really. I think you'll buy a lot of paints, you'll buy a lot of brushes, but when it comes to models,
Yeah, I've got
um,
most of what I
uh,
need.
yeah, and outside of GW Elder or Elder inspired stuff, you don't really move away from that script. So there's
No,
something to have excited you to the point where you're actually going to back it. I think they've done well, Jamie.
I,
They've
I,
melted that
I,
cold heart of yours.
I, oh shit! My mic just went all the way to red with that laugh. Um, like what it is, I don't know. But yeah, I think it's the friendship. I think I like friendships a lot more, but it's the friendships mixed with the art style that's so good. Because it's I don't know, man. I think I'm very tired of realistic, which we're not allowed to use in this industry, as you and I know. Um, but yeah, like the
You mean,
clean lines and the
oh, right. So you're talking about the art style. I thought you meant
mm,
as in serious subject matter, as in everything at the moment seems to be quite, quite dark or quite gritty or
yeah,
serious or real. Whereas this feels very Disney, doesn't it? If Disney
which
could produce a model,
yeah, like I'm working with a sculptor called Warren,
mm,
and like literally the amount of times I've referenced Disney and
mhm,
said this is the feel I want it to have, like this really happy, friendly, like basically almost childlike feeling.
mm.
Um, is exactly what, and it's really hard to recreate, and to have such cleanness. Like it, it's like now you and I do more stuff. Like whenever you look at cartoons or anime, you realize now just how effortless they make
Mm.
the illustrations, the artwork look, and it's like
Mm.
they've only got like 5 lines on there and an outline, and it looks like a fucking. It's got all these emotions. You're like,
Yeah.
so obviously this has a bit more than that, but it's still got that feeling,
Oh,
which is
well, that's it. It's like in the two faces, obviously in the pterodactyl, you can see affection there, but in the rider's face, I can't tell whether it's a girl or a boy from here.
I think it's
But
a
in that
girl.
ride, yeah, in that rider's face, you can see the love in the
Yeah,
face, and to capture that emotion on a sculpt um,
it's not easy,
is
Lionel.
amazing. And 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 then if you get it in front of a good painter, because I
Yeah,
don't believe Bold Miniatures traditionally do box arts. I've looked at their stuff, and on their
yeah,
website and on their Instagram, it's all a bit like Brokentoad, where they just show the grey, they show the resin because that's what you're going to get. They don't traditionally show box arts or commission box arts, from what I can see. So it'd be very interesting to see if any of the professional painters pick this
mm,
up and have a
mm-hmm,
go at it and see what they do with it. I think I saw in the comment section David Aroba suggesting that he was going to pick it up anyway and have a
mm.
go. So it'll be very interesting to see what he brings to it, if he does.
Yeah, yeah, joyous thing that will be if David does. Yeah, I'm jealous. I'm sad that they're not my models, and I'm really happy that they exist. Which
Mm.
is where the bittersweet comes in, basically. Um, yeah, I can appreciate so much more now when I realise how hard it is to get. Like Alice did a. I've got a sculpt coming that no one's really seen, but it's not quite the same as this, but it's a similar feeling in the way it's sculpted.
Okay.
Um, and I said Alice because I don't know her surname, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the other models look like. Basically,
Mm.
there you go.
Yeah. So obviously there's the close up with yeah the yeah it's perfect in terms of that connection you can feel with the two.
Yeah, the hair's really good.
Yeah.
And interestingly, eyebrows and eyelashes. And I've always shied away from putting them on models, so it's interesting to see somebody else putting them on. Um,
Yeah.
and I still want to buy it.
Well, I saw it on a painting forum actually, where a lot of people say they forget to paint the eyebrows on, and to be
Mm.
honest, I think I probably do sometimes. It's something I have to cut. Well, obviously on small scale,
Mm.
like 28mm, you don't. So obviously, once you move to the larger scale, it's obviously naturally a piece of information that you forget to put on unless it's sculpted on. Um, so yeah, the fact that it's
Brilliant.
sculpted on,
It's brilliant.
yeah,
It
is.
reminds me of slightly of the anime with the girl and the
I think so. Yeah.
yeah, I can't remember what it's called. Beautiful.
Okay.
Something a
So
bit more happy then.
yeah, talking about dark and serious all the time.
Uh,
So we've got Black Sun Miniatures, who obviously do the dark and serious and do it very well. And as I suggested, was it last week or a couple of weeks before, when we saw one of their new releases coming out, I get the feeling that they're starting to crank out their releases after a spell of being quiet. And this is the latest tease that they've given off. So this is called Korgrak the Corrupted, and it's been sculpted by Victor Aguela. And this is a new release that's coming out. It's going to be a 75mm. Obviously, there you've got the concept art and the 3D render, but it'll be coming out as a resin sculpt for you to purchase. And this kind of falls in line with the kind of releases we've seen traditionally from Black Sun, where they've got powered warriors in various stances from a fantasy realm. So if you like what Black Sun do anyway, this is more of the same. Some great volumes in there to practice your muscle and lighting and whatnot, and then obviously there's sufficient character in the face that you can explore some kind of different styles there. And obviously, with it being, I presume it's an orc, with it being an orc or a chaos being, you're not stuck with the traditional skin tones you would do. You can obviously go red, green, blue, whatever you
Orange.
fancy, or orange, Jamie,
Yeah.
whatever you fancy. So, like I said, if you're a fan of Black Sun and we are here, that's obviously another solid addition to their vast catalogue.
Got a lot of models. This is the kind of evil I was talking about, that I don't. It doesn't evoke emotion in me. It's yeah. So just to give you some context. But yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that they have got coming some sculpts which are very different. I think for Black Sun, they're more. I don't know how to describe it properly, but they're more in line with what we've just seen from Bold Miniatures in terms of softer. And I was surprised because they caught my eye because the sculptor who's doing them is doing them in a very similar style to Lucas Pina. At first
I
when I
know
saw
him.
it, at first when I saw it, I thought it was Lucas Pina's work, but it's
Yeah,
not. It's another
same.
sculptor. And obviously, once it's released, we'll look at them in more detail and we'll reference the sculptor properly. But it's very much that style, and it looks like there's a whole bunch of them coming out at the same time.
Yeah, he's
So it
done quite a lot,
shows,
hasn't he? Yeah.
yeah. So it shows, and it looks like they're all for Black Sun as well. So it shows that there's going to be a different kind of style coming into the Black Sun range as well. So you've got your dark and serious, which I tend to prefer, which I tend to like, dark and serious style, and then you're going to have your an alternate. I was going to say softer. It's not softer. An alternative style. But
They
I
are.
I I do
different.
like the serious, dark, big, muscular, overpowering chaps that Black Sun do, because they do it well. That sword and sorcery, like Conan and whatnot. You know, I don't think anybody else matches them really, in terms of the range and scope of what they do for that sort of stuff. When I think of that sort of stuff, I think of Black Sun straight away. So
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, they do have their, and not only is their catalogue massive, they've put quite a lot out of production as well. Like,
yeah,
you know, there's so many models that they did that they don't do that you can't even find referenced on their store at all. Like, it's actually it's amazing.
yeah, I suspect they've removed those because they knew these new models were coming in. Because, like I said, I think they've been quiet for a while. They've certainly not had
Just
much in the
saving
way
up.
of releases, but now, yeah, there seems to be. I mean, we've had two now in the space of 2 weeks, and I know there's, at least from what I've seen of this sculptor, what he's showing off, there's at least another 3 or 4 coming.
I think so. Yeah, possibly
that's
5. Yeah.
yeah.
I think I've seen them all. They're really nice, and they're
Very
concepts that are quite nice concepts as well.
yeah.
Oh.
To be fair, they've done well. They've done well to find a sculptor who can sculpt in the same style as Lucas, you know,
Yeah.
and get him to produce that many models exclusively for them.
He actually he prefers to work from his own imagination. So it's quite interesting. So
Okay.
I think they explain. I'm not 100% sure for Black Stun, but I believe they will give him an idea of a concept, and then he will go off and work on it himself, which is amazing, really. I think, I guess, similar to Lucas, he comes up with his own concepts, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a crazy weird smoothness, isn't it? Like it's almost like a 3D rendered model, but it's traditional.
Yeah, like I said, I can't. Like I said, I'm not an expert when it comes to understanding sculpture yet. But obviously, with Lucas, he's got a signature, hasn't he? You see his pieces, and he knows what it is, much like Joaquin. And I think this guy, considering for me, he's a new name, and I apologise if he's not. If he's somebody who's been around the block, and I've pinned him as a new name, then I apologise. But if he is new, for him to have that signature so early on is amazing. He's
Yeah.
obviously a natural talent.
Yeah, I agree. Completely. And then this brings us to going through all the things to where we were before.
Yeah, which we've already covered. So obviously that post will go out on social media. So once again, if you do follow our social media, you'll see this go up. But once again, if we're doing giveaways, sometimes we do different types of giveaways on our social media. So even if you're subscribed to this channel, it's still worth subscribing to our social media on Facebook and Instagram, because you'll get different kinds of promotions, different kinds of news. And we'll pop a link to that in the video down below.
And just to quickly check the terms and conditions, can I enter this competition?
You can enter, Jamie, but I won't select you. So,
Or it'll be random though, and it'll be on that.
yeah, and if you randomly come up, I'll disqualify the result, and we'll pick.
I'll know I won though in my heart, and I think that's the most important thing.
It's the taking part that counts, Jamie. So you can take part, but you won't be a winner.
Yeah, you'll never be a winner. You'll take part and you'll lose. Right, one sec. Right, and I think we have one last content agenda.
You do.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a Kickstarter that has landed today at the time of recording, Friday. When this goes out, it'll be a couple of days old. It was funded in, was it 14 minutes? I can't see.
13 cheeky minutes.
Oh, 13. So this is a Kickstarter that has been brought by Chimera Models and Arcadia Models as well. So what they tend to do is sometimes they come together along with other, I think Nocturna is one of the other ones that do, and they come together as something called the League, and they combine their efforts. In this one, 2 of the companies have come together and they brought this Kickstarter along, which is a mammoth project. I understand from reading the Kickstarter, there's 30 people involved in this in terms of sculptors, painters, concept artists, and everything like that. But essentially, what they've done is they brought their fantasy world to life, and they've populated it with these miniatures. And there's a series of 75mm miniatures that you can purchase, which are all fantastically sculpted. There's work in there by Joaquin. There's work in there by other sculptors as well. Like I said, I'm not going to go through all the names. All the names are there, but also we do like a good box art, Jamie, and there's box arts galore in here, with a number of painters contributing. So you've got the likes of Mark Mascalans, Arnau, Sergio, all contributing, and there's some brilliant pieces. So I thought it'd be interesting.
Funny that you can tell, isn't it? You can tell who they're by, basically. Like we know them now well enough.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, there's a couple of names there that I'm not familiar with, but I will now be following because their work their work's brilliant. So I saw so this one's by Arnau. I saw Arnau teasing this one. I know. I saw this one being teased a couple of weeks back, and the atmospheric lighting he's put on it, in terms of the reflection of the snow and what it's brilliant. It's
Mm.
it's an amazing piece, and I don't know what to say because obviously he's a very good painter. He's like a brilliant painter. But this piece once again is surprised me, and it's one of those watershed moments where you think, oh yeah, it's difficult for painters like this to surprise you now because you expect a
Yeah, you
certain
set the
amount.
bar so high already.
Yeah, and then when I saw this, it's like obviously white fur, cream fur is difficult to paint anyway. A polar bear, I
Mm.
think, is probably one of the worst animals to have a go at. So he's managed to get that brightness coupled with the darkness of the individual on top, then the atmospheric lighting on the side away from the camera. It's so brilliantly done, and it's worth saying as well. The sculpt is a fantastic sculpt, so he's got a brilliant piece to work with. All the sculpts in this Kickstarter are amazing in my view. I can't pick one bad one out. You know how
Mm.
sometimes you'll get a collection and you think, oh yeah, these are good on that one they've thrown in just to make up the numbers. Um, this one, I think every single sculpt is on point, and then it's been matched with the box art as well. Every piece of box art is on point as well. It's a very, very, very impressive Kickstarter. And I think they said they've been working on this for 10 years from from the first concept art going to where they are now. I'm sure in the article they say this is a culmination of 10 years work, and to be honest it shows because there is not a sloppy execution in any part of
Mm.
this project, and I'm not surprised it was funded in 30 minutes, and it deserved to be funded. And I think this is probably going to be our first one of 2021 where it breaks some serious boundaries in terms of money, because it deserves to do well.
They're very none of them look like easy models to paint, if
No,
that makes sense.
no.
Um,
and
like
and they have got stretch goals, which they've announced that they're hoping to hit, and that unlocks more models. So you know how sometimes stretch goals is this optional arm or this thing. No,
yeah,
they're unlocking new models as well with these stretch goals.
that's a
Um,
cool model.
yeah, and it's been done by two different painters there. I think one Sergio, can't read
Mm.
the other one. But what I like here in this Kickstarter as well is they've got on some of them, they've got two painters to paint exactly the same model in their way. And it just
Yeah,
shows how differently they can be interpreted.
yeah.
Um,
There's a lot more models than I thought there would be. Bloody hell.
yeah. Yeah, it's a big project. And like I said, scrolling through there, I can't find one model that's a bit ropey. It's like they're all very good. These are Kickstarter bonuses, so you will
Okay.
get them for free depending on what pledge you get. They're obviously available to
Mm.
buy separately as well, but that's why they're a bit more cartoony and they don't
I
really
like them, to be honest. They're filling a gap I like.
yeah,
Yeah, okay. So there's two major models, not
yeah.
yeah, okay.
So there you go. For some reason they're fund, even though they're a Spanish company, the pricing's in Czech franc, I believe it is. Yeah,
That is that's weird.
yeah. So there's a conversion chart there, so you'll have to convert according to what country you're ordering from, to see which
Okay.
one.
So the stretch goals are painting tutorials, a new miniature, which we've already reached, right? Chimera Paints,
20%
a
off.
painting guide, a new miniature which they've hit, some cards, yep. Some free, yeah, the ones we saw. Painting guide,
Mm,
alternative head, yeah.
mm. And that looks like more models.
75. Yeah. Hydra boost. A boost. A boost. I suppose they're gonna have to, if the price keeps going up, they're gonna have to think up new stretch goals. So what's the price here then?
I think they're about four. I did the math quickly. I think they're about £40 for a standard 75 mil, but the bigger ones are
It's got the
coming in about.
conversion actually here.
Has
Yeah.
it? The bigger ones are coming in at about £70, £75. So the polar
Yeah.
bear, for example, is £75.
Uh,
The one that Mark's
Honestly, it's
painted,
quite cheap.
I think it's quite cheap. Yeah, I thought it was quite cheap.
Yeah.
Um,
75 mil of that size, yeah.
so actually, not cheap, Jamie. We shouldn't use the word cheap. Affordable. It's affordable.
That is true because it implies. Well, I think the cheap word isn't relative to my earnings or what I can afford. It's relative to what other models this size are.
Yeah.
It's
but when I say
relatively cheap.
but when I say cheap, I mean affordable. But
Yeah, but
well,
I suppose
I
that's
think
still
we're making,
relative as well. Yeah.
yeah, we're making different points. Yeah, I think the other thing as well is if if you scroll up, I just wanted to look at Mark's one as well because I really like Mark's piece.
Yeah.
So
I did have a cheeky look at it. Yeah. Honestly, they're all bloody good, man. Like
yeah, they're all
that is brilliant. Yeah.
they're all amazing. And like I said, there are 3 artists here that I haven't heard of before. And as soon as I've seen them, I think right, I'll start following you because you're handy with a
Yeah.
brush. So there you go. That Mark's is amazing as well. It's got actually when you look at it, it's got his signature palette, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You can tell they're
Dark.
Mark's colours.
It's
But
more
the way,
saturated than I would have thought.
yeah, I see. I thought like when we were discussing that piece with him that his other piece was saturated, but I think what he said is no, there's contrast in it, but it's not saturated. I think he'll
Hmm.
probably say the same. I think there's contrast in there, but it's not
Yeah, I
that
suppose.
it's not that saturated. But I
Whereas this is
really
very
like,
saturated on the fur.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's starting
So
to
the
use,
bear is a
but
Kickstarter exclusive.
oh yeah, it is.
Bloody hell! It's interesting box arts because obviously I now did my box art right, and it's fantastic. Like this is fantastic, and and I don't like when I see it. Does it make me think? This is obviously not on topic, but do box arts make me think? Bloody hell! I see it and I have to paint it, and I think they do on one hand. Like absolutely, there's been loads of models I bought because I loved the box art. Like this model is making me buy it because the better the painted, the more simple it looks. So I feel like I could paint this, but I know obviously I
Yeah.
couldn't.
See, with me looking at them, I know I couldn't paint any of these anywhere near this.
Yeah,
But even with that knowledge,
inspiring.
but even with that knowledge, the box art still sells it to me.
Yeah,
If this was just a page full of grey models like that one above, I can go, that's a
yeah,
nice sculpt, but I wouldn't be tempted. Yet, despite that, the paint job directly below that model tempts me more, even though I know I can't get anywhere near it. So it's a very
yeah.
box art is a very unusual beast in that sense.
Well,
So when I look at
yeah.
if I were to pick this up, I'm tempted because of the box art, but I'm under no illusion that I can get anywhere near that. So
It's a weird one. Yeah.
it's weird.
Even the basing, I couldn't get close to the basing on these things. Like the bases are done so well.
I couldn't even plant that twig in the resin the way I wanted to.
I couldn't even do that base. Anyway, this isn't about what we can and can't do. It's about appreciating art, I guess.
Well, the other thing as well is obviously Chimera do Chimera Paints, and the I want to say the owner, but at least one of the lead figures in Chimera is Francesco Farabi, and I apologize if I mispronounced his name, who is a very established painter and is also one of the judges in Monty as well. So the selection of paint jobs and painters hasn't been a mistake here. He understands paint very well. He appreciates a painted model, and therefore, I think you're seeing all that come together in the execution of this Kickstarter. It's been very surgical in the way that it's been put together. Um, so yeah, it is. I mean, even if you don't want to back it, go and just have a look at the Kickstarter and have a look at some of these box arts. You'll be hard pushed to find box arts to this level on a Kickstarter. You know, maybe I think it runs a parallel with the one that Big Child did for their King Arthur, Legends of King Arthur. Do you remember they did that one where
Hmm.
they're about they did, I think there were about 5 or 6 released characters, their interpretation of King Arthur, and then obviously all the Big Child team went at it in terms of doing the box arts. That was one where I looked at it. That, and obviously their Marvel United one, where I looked at it and thought, oh, I just could pore over these images for ages. And I think this is another one of those Kickstarters where, just from a voyeuristic point of view, it's nice to go along and just have a peek, even if you're not going to back them.
I'd like to see like good, solid, big versions of all the box arts. That'd be nice.
What do you
Bloody
mean?
hell.
You'd like to see them up close?
Yeah.
I think a lot. I think a lot of these will end up in painting shows, either this year or if life returns back to
It's
normal.
a scary thought, isn't it? Actually, the first painting competition, like when SMC opens up, they're not going to have enough room.
And also, it's depending on what kind of painting competition it is. If it's first past the post, like top 3, it's not even worth putting your hand in, is it? Because you've got all these great artists who've been painting away non-stop for 2 years, locked in their studio. Yeah. What they're going to vomit out, is going to be amazing. But in terms of a spectator and an attendee, it's probably going to be some of the best shows to attend, because the amount of work you're going to see
absolutely
at these shows.
Well, one can only look forward to it, Lionel. We'll obviously have full coverage of all the shows. I don't know why I went into nerd voice then. I genuinely don't know why.
It sounds like that character from Some Mothers Do Have Them.
I don't know it, but yeah.
Show my age.
I think that is us bidding each other adieu.
Yeah, it is. And just yet another reminder, if you're still here, remember, stick your comment down below. What you'd paint with those brushes if you won. Like the video. You lose nothing by trying, do you? Takes you 2 minutes to write a comment, and you could end up with £50 worth of brushes. So
you would make it up, I guess. It'd be boring if you did make it up, though. But rules.
I think. Look, come on. I think everybody who's watching has got a project, at least 4 projects on their desk that they need to paint. Just pick one of those, and that'll be the ones you paint. So you don't need to make it up. We've all got plenty of projects we need to be painting.
Indeed. I've got too many. Anyway, I wanted to start a new conversation thread there, but no. Thank you, viewers. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. See you next week.
Next week, guys. Thanks for watching.
Cheers, guys.